France 0, Portugal 0 is where we start. 5-3 on pens. France will face Spain in the semi-finals on Tuesday. Didier Deschamps has admitted that they need to score some goals. However, it's working for them.
So far. They haven't needed it so far.
How about that? Yeah, France, I mean, what is it? 3 goals they've scored in the tournament, haven't they?
Yeah.
One of them was a penalty against Poland.
And 2 were own goals.
And 2 were own goals.
That's all you need.
And yet they're in the semi-finals.
Austerity football.
It's genius.
I mean, it's fine to win a championship like your Portugal 2016,
Yes.
but is it fine to do it when you've got France's squad? I mean, these are similar questions to the ones that the existential questions that one has about England, aren't they?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I think if France have, we'll get to England in the second half. France have, I think, looked a little bit more convincing than England, but
not in the knockouts.
Well, I do. Yeah. I mean, with the star quality on show, one would perhaps expect at least 1 goal in 120 minutes, but it wasn't that surprising. I mean, this is Portugal's 3rd game in a row where they've failed to score, which is quite a damning stat. And it's incredible considering that Cristiano Ronaldo, one of the greatest ever goal scorers and players that the football's ever seen, you know, he was given an awful lot of time. He was given the whole game to score a goal. How come he didn't manage it, Andy?
It's a very good question. Fortunately, there wasn't proven top quality striker on the bench to take his place at any point and freshen it all up.
What are Diogo Jota and Gonzalo Ramos thinking right now?
They're probably thinking, why did you call us up?
Yeah.
Why did you invite
What's
us?
the point?
The closest Gonzalo Ramos got to action was that 2-footer he got from the steward in Dortmund. This is a guy who has literally scored a World Cup hat-trick in a World Cup knockout game in living memory.
Yeah.
And had a great second half of the season.
Yes.
In a proper league.
But look,
That's right.
if you...
I like how you put living memory. Wasn't it a year and a half ago?
Yeah. There's a lot of football's happened since then, Marcus. I mean, come on.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
I mean, he just sort of sucks all the attention in, doesn't he? And
If like you'd never watched football before, or if you're an alien landing in the middle of the centre circle,
you'd be like, he's one of us.
well, and you're on the lookout for
Pepe.
you're on the lookout for a player called Antoine Griezmann.
Yes.
You would look at him and go, he looks like the Griezmann. Because
Yes.
he's just constantly kissing the camera, constantly just sort of going, "Hi, I'm here, boys."
That
Who
camera
wants to
angle.
look at me.
That camera angle when they were getting a team talk from Roberto Martinez. Was it during extra time or maybe after?
And
must
sort
have
of
been
leans in and he's just going, hello.
Both.
hi."
There were a couple.
Yeah, and Ronaldo sat down and the
How's
camera
it
hones in
going?
on him. But that was one of the weirdest
It
things.
was so bizarre.
It was like the bit in Fleabag where the priest asks her to like pray,
Yes.
and she breaks the fourth wall. Like it was the most pathetic thing because it wasn't just Ronaldo, but it was Martinez as well. You know, we talk a lot about how Martinez is indulging him, and David Cartledge got it right at full time. He tweeted like a terrible game managed by 2 gutless coaches, and none more so than Martinez, because there were moments in the break after full time and the break at half time of extra time where he was kind of like obviously trying to keep the morale high, but he was like going over to Ronaldo, like punching and laughing, and I was like, "Look, mate, I don't think that's a thing you need to top up. It's everyone else who's struggling as a result."
What was weirder than that is when Ronaldo had his one proper chance, which he clodded about 4 miles over the bar.
Which was a bit difficult. I would give him that. It was behind him, and he'd made a narrower near.
Sure.
He was anonymous rather than shit this.
Yeah, but
this
nothing
match, I would
Andy
say.
said was incorrect.
No.
But the weirdest thing about the whole situation is Francisco Conceição, who's got 5 international caps, who set it up for him, comes over to give him a cuddle and go, "Oh, it's all right, son." And he's young enough to be his son.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell is that? What does that say about the atmosphere, really? And, you know, I realise, like, optics are a huge part of it and a huge part of football and a huge part of the way we're talking about this particular situation. But I have to say, I thought on the coverage, and I respect all other broadcasters, I thought on the coverage,
Don't say that off, Mike.
the way they, the way they,
He draws pictures as well.
They went through the way they went through it and said for the miss, by the way, which you know, you if you want to be kind to him, that's fine. I'm not sure I would be so much because it was a very presentable chance that someone who scored over 800 goals should be putting away, I would argue. When they're sitting there talking about, you see, this is why he's the best. This is the best movement I've ever seen. It's movement that you would expect from any centre forward. And the whole problem with him, and I can understand like how he draws fire for his teammates, his historical quality, his leadership to a certain extent, if you believe in that, okay, all of that is fair enough. One of the biggest problems is that he asks for the ball and then can't make the run to get it.
Yeah.
And that is a massive problem.
I think leaving him on for the whole of extra time is madness.
And they've done it for 2 games in a row.
But did you see the way that the pundits that Andy was talking about, the way they tried to explain it, or tried to excuse it, is probably the better way of putting that. They were like, it got to a point where it was as the game wore on, you got closer to penalties, so therefore taking him off made less sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so play him longer is what you're saying.
Yeah, I had to rewatch this because obviously there was a lot of chat about the pundits in our WhatsApp group. See, I was actually watching the game in a pub with my mate, and we booked a little area, and I turned up and they said, due to the bad weather, the sound has gone a bit funny, so we actually can't have any sound on the TV. So I was like, that's a bit annoying. All right,
so you got to sit there and listen to Kendrick Lamar while you're watching it. Oh, amazing.
Not quite, Andy.
I put my headphones on and I listened to Definitely Maybe.
Not even. I didn't even have that option.
Oh.
There was a little bit of music playing fine, and then with 20 minutes to go, and I'd forgotten it was Friday night, in a type of pub like that, suddenly the DJ arrived.
Yes.
It was karaoke.
Yes,
I was
please.
praying for a winning goal. Please.
Friday
While people were murdering. Hey, Jude. I was like, please, one of you. I am now relying on Portugal or France to score a winning goal. Obviously, it went to penalties.
Oh, no. I mean, I would say like Friday night, karaoke Friday night, unless you're like one bar in the big market, I don't think you can get away with karaoke in a bar on Friday night. That's a Monday night kind of, we need people through the door kind of vibe.
Indeed. But you're right to say what you were saying about the pundits. It seemed like nobody wanted to kind of criticise Ronaldo. And Ronaldo, obviously, he was whacking his free kicks wide and into the wall and all that kind of stuff. He should have been...
Bruno one. Don't have a go.
Well,
He's improving.
That's true. I mean, Bruno Fernandes has already been taken off, by the way, when it came to the penalties, so he wasn't there to score. But to give Deschamps credit, he took Mbappe off in extra time.
And he took Griezmann off before. So
he did.
Arguably his 2 best players, and the other one that's in the France top scorer of all time charts, Olivier Giroud, never came on.
Right, and Mbappe, I thought to myself, he's obviously taken a whack on the nose or something, obviously he's had a bit of pain, but Deschamps said that Mbappe was tired. He didn't have that spring in his step, as you could see. And he said Mbappe's always very honest with us in the team, which suggested that Mbappe maybe said, I've not got anything in the tank. So if you compare that to, say, the Portugal situation, I understand it still went to a penalty shootout and Ronaldo did score his penalty, but it's just a bit of a different vibe.
And those substitutions did improve them, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, there really should have been a goal, we should say. There were chances. I mean, there were chances not taken, and there was some heroic defending all round, really.
Well, Portugal had the best of it ironically, Portugal had the best of it in quite normal time.
Yeah, I mean, Portugal probably edged it. Roberto Martínez, in typical fashion, in his post-match press conference, put forward the evidence to the jury that Portugal were definitely the better side and should have won.
Well, Mike Maignan was the better goalkeeper, wasn't
Yes.
he?
Yeah. He did have a good game. I mean, there was that moment, was it late on I can't remember if it was full time or at the end of extra time, where Portugal had sort of almost like a 3-on-1 situation.
Yes, with
it was at the end of extra time, and they didn't make it, and they didn't press it. I mean, so there were actually
Nuno Mendes kind of rolled it straight at him, didn't he?
There were a few goals in this game, or at least one goal in this game, and it didn't quite happen. But when it went to penalties, despite what Portugal did in the previous round, I always quite fancied France, to be honest with you. But we have to say,
did you really?
Yeah,
I felt the other way round, because I felt that Portugal had the better penalty takers left on the pitch.
100%, yeah.
Well, every one that came up for France is like, oh my gosh, he's taking a penalty.
Fofana.
And
I was waiting for him to miss.
And they all aced it. And
the quality of the penalties was very high.
And the remarkable thing is, if you ever had a point when you're going back to what DC said about the cowardly coaches and stuff, the weird thing is, there's a lot of discussion before this, and especially with the closeness of games between Portugal and France, so it's not completely unforeseeable that it comes to this point, that Didier Deschamps, he refuses to practice penalties. He always just says, it's a lottery. And there's been a lot of debate about this in France.
Does he just say that?
Well, he had a massive row with the technical director of the FFF, the French FA, because he wanted to introduce a penalty strategy. And Deschamps said, "What do you mean a penalty strategy?
Well,
what are you talking about?" And actually, it's the players who look prepared for it rather than him. Because I think the lineup of penalty takers, it feels like he's drawn them out of a hat. Now, they all take a great penalty, but it feels like they're prepared rather than he's prepared.
Well, that's interesting. So if I'd have known that, I might have not have thought France would do it. I assumed Deschamps, being the type of manager that he is, would have prepared, and that they are aware that at the moment they're not really clicking and scoring too many goals, so they would be prepared for this, and they would be prepared to suffer. If you see what I mean.
Much has been made of when the penalty shootout starts. He just kind of looks a bit like
good luck, lads.
Well, no, he's a bit more like hands on, because he's like, right, you do that. You're at first and stuff, which suggests they don't have a settled a priority scale as who's going to be taking the first penalty and stuff. And a lot of other managers just go, right, we know the plan, lads. Well, Southgate will be like, we know the plan, lads.
It depends though if people have come off though, because Mbappe would have been a taker. But I understand what you mean though. But they managed it. As I say, the quality of the penalties was very, very high indeed. I mean, there wasn't one save. It was just the width of the post.
And Diogo Costa, who's a great penalty saver,
as we saw,
didn't come anywhere near any of them, did he?
No, absolutely right. Yeah, and France march on. I mean, we've had a bit of chat about penalties in this tournament, in particular about the stop-start nature of them. We saw Lewandowski do it. We've seen I forget who the other one was. Maybe it was Mbappe himself. But anyway, it seems just quite unfair on the keeper where you do that. When Ronaldo did a bit of that in the shootout as well.
He did 2 pauses, but I think on reflection, if you look at the other ones that were taken earlier on in the tournament,
I think they were worse.
I think they were worse. I think at least he's still moving at this point. So I didn't have as much of a problem, but the previous one he took.
You do have a problem with it, Peter.
I do have a problem with it. I think it's atrocious.
I actually thought Ronaldo was it sort of inhibited himself. I thought he slowed almost like right down.
Yeah,
I thought
his momentum.
For a moment, it looked like Maignan had caught his bluff.
Yeah.
But Maignan complained about it just as he complained when Lewandowski scored against it, because of course he saved it against Lewandowski against Poland, and then because he'd come off his line before it was taken. But how can you not come off your line before it's taken when the guy's dummying it? But it needs to be tightened up. The whole rule is stretched way beyond the spirit of the rule at the moment, and they just need to tighten up the wording, because
loosen it completely. Loosen it completely if that's the issue.
Yeah, exactly. I mean? It's so stacked against the goalkeeper at the moment. It's ridiculous.
But isn't that part of the kidology of it? Like there are so many other rules or laws in football that players push to the limit. Isn't this just an example of that?
Yeah.
And
right.
getting the goalkeeper to stumble off his line, it's part of eliciting that mistake.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Like,
I mean, the goalkeeper.
I know what you mean. Some of them are ridiculous. I don't think the Ronaldo one was that bad as Pete's mentioned, but I don't know. I think the general discussion of it is.
Well, so do you know what? I mean,
I think
the goalkeeper.
decide it one way. But do you not think, Marcus, that like VAR's been introduced to just boil down some quite human decisions to like really tedious levels? Let's have some tedium in this. You just want it.
I think they probably can't. I think it's a good point, but I don't think they can be bothered.
Like foul throws.
Oh my God!
Yeah. But let's have a laser going across the line.
That was fun, wasn't it?
Slam dunked it, didn't he? Neuer, wasn't it?
Well, but why don't goalkeepers then? I mean, obviously they have to stay on their line. I don't know what the law is actually. I should have read this, but presumably it's definitely when the ball is kicked.
Yeah.
So up until that point, why doesn't the goalkeeper charging off his line and then retreat back to him and go, well, if you're going to start stuttering and all the rest of it, I'm going to play at that game.
Start doing a robot.
Jordan Pickford could definitely be capable of doing that.
Well, it's the goalkeepers that are being cracked down on, isn't it? Because,
I know.
Like the dialogue between Michael Oliver and Maignan during the shootout, where Maignan was trying to do that thing almost Emi Martinez-esque, where he was like standing on the 6-yard line, like how close can I get to the taker? How far can I get inside his head? And that every penalty, Michael Oliver was telling him to move back. So if we're talking about pushing stuff to the absolute limit,
they're all at it, Andy.
I think another goalkeeper, another referee might have booked him.
Yeah.
Well, when all said and done, France won the penalty shootout.
And when all's said and done, Marcus, Cristiano Ronaldo, if anyone else is thinking of criticising him, didn't get the lowest mark in L'Equipe's.
Oh, what were the ratings?
Notoriously mean ratings.
The famous/infamous L'Equipe ratings.
Have they retired Pepe?
Pepe got a very respectable 7.
That foot race to 2. Absolutely brilliant. He did not appreciate the I'm going to beat you for pace, kick and go.
Yep.
But he caught him in the end. I mean, people say that he got in, that he beat him in a foot race. He didn't beat him in a foot race, but
he recovered well.
He recovered well.
No, I mean, that was, I think, the underlining of why France aren't scoring any goals.
Exactly.
In the time that it took Thuram to wait for someone to get in the end of the cross, Pepe's like, I'm catching you up now. I'm catching you up now.
Yeah, it was very generous to Pepe, I thought, because the reason Thuram holds onto the ball as long as he does, no one is in the box.
And nip this Rose off at the bud.
So Cristiano Ronaldo in L'Équipe gets a very respectable 3. Puts him on a level with Antoine Griezmann, who also got 3. Bruno Fernandes 2.
Ooh.
Kylian Mbappe 2. This is out of 10, by the way.
Is there not a little asterisk on that, or a mask over the top of the 2, maybe?
What did, because Vitinha played him well. He had a good game.
7.
Okay, fair enough.
Did anyone get higher than a 7?
Mike Maignan got 8.
8, right.
So did William Saliba.
Which is incredibly high for L'Équipe, as we know.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much a Jeroboam of champagne, isn't it?
There's such a bunch of characters, aren't there?
I do feel sorry for Mbappe, because he's had a terrible month. He's not getting paid. He's not getting paid. He's had to wear this bloody mask. And
he's got to get a second job, hasn't he?
Honestly, I genuinely thought he was going to rip that mask off and just play without.
I think it's more difficult.
What, against Pepe?
That would be
As soon as he took the mask off, Pepe would run over to the touch and go bump.
I am pretty sure I've seen Pepe in a La Liga match for Real Madrid notice someone's boot had come off and walk up to them and deliberately try to step on their foot.
Right, okay.
As imagine what he would have tried to do.
I just think VAR's there for a reason, and that would just be seen as unsportsmanlike behaviour. Which you can sanction, presumably. Giving him a bonk on the nose.
Yeah, but
you get bonked on the nose once, you're like, well, that's done now.
Yeah.
I'm being bonked.
Or you could do, you know what dads do is, oh, got your nose.
Yeah,
Pepe goes up to him and like, grabs it off.
I just think, because the big talk is that Mbappe isn't sleeping because of his nose.
Yeah, it's having I'm lucky enough to have never broken my nose, but you know, like when you do something like that, when you speak to like athletes about it, a lot of it is centered around how can you play with this?
Yeah.
But also, like, it's also, you know, everything outside the 90 minutes or 120 minutes of how can you live with this?
Yeah.
So little things like that, the fact that it affects your breathing and you now have to breathe through your mouth.
You can't wear those little clip-on moustaches anymore.
Yeah.
That would be a real bind.
He
for
loves
you.
doing
recognise
that.
you in the mask.
He bloody loves that.
Yeah.
He walks around with a berry and a little moustache.
Yeah.
And pretends to be French.
He loves a joke shop, doesn't he?
You can't smell the onions around your neck. It's awful. You know.
But like, I do feel sorry for him. But so I just think what he needs to do is chisel some extra nostrils above the bridge of the nose so he can breathe easier.
Good point.
Or one of those ones you get in the throat with a big pen.
Yeah, like when or like in Waterworld, get them behind the ears.
Or he could just engage in the sort of behaviour that might cause his septum to disappear, and maybe he'd have more room to breathe.
Exactly.
Peter,
yeah.
I guarantee you they've not thought of that.
No, I guarantee you they haven't as well. And that's why they'll be out of this competition if they're not careful.
I was going to say something libelous there. I'll leave it. Relating to Andy's septum destroyer.
Always do that. If you're about to say something libelous, don't do it.
Give us the status quo treatment.
There you go. That'll do.
Francis Rossi in the shower.
There we are. All right.
It's fallen out.
No, didn't need it. Didn't need it.
Oh dear. So where were we? France? Yeah, I think that's it, isn't it? I mean any more on this game? I think we're glad it's over. I can talk about the songs I heard people murdering while I listen to it, but I don't want to relive that in my mind.
I do like Derbs on Twitter asking, have any team been more of a crew of a pirate ship than Portugal?
That is lovely.
From manager to the front is just lovely, kind of like absolute lost souls, a lot of them. I love it.
There's something to be said of that team, like even beyond Martinez's like use of them, but I always have a lot of admiration for the fact that Portugal, this iteration of Portugal, have a lot of players who are big players in their respective teams, but they do bind together. And I think sometimes that gets lost in a lot of the Ronaldo discussion, is the camaraderie and team spirit and I suppose the fighting nature of them really shines through. And it is a shame that it feels like they've missed the boat in this particular tournament. But I don't know. You kind of wonder what comes next for them. It feels like an evolution of style which is underpinned from that, I suppose, togetherness.
So they're a pirate ship crew without a pirate ship if they've missed the boat.
Well, you could say that. Yeah, I wouldn't want to.
What is Martinez's kind of legacy? Because will they continue with him after this? Because this has been...
Well, it's only been 18 months, isn't it?
I think they probably will.
I think they will.
I think
won all their qualifying games.
Yeah, I mean,
much has been made of him like singing their anthem, which is that. Okay, and sort of saying that he's a bit of a people pleaser, which kind of leads into why he plays Ronaldo.
Oh,
so
big
much.
time.
So, like, is that a thing? Is that?
I think, well, it's amazing because normally when someone from Spain or a Spanish speaker comes to Portugal, they just understand the questions in Portuguese, answer them in Spanish and get subtitles on telly, whereas he has actually spoken Portuguese.
Right, okay.
Which is very, very unusual.
Yeah, I think they'll stick with him, and I think they probably should, because despite all this Ronaldo business, I actually thought he set them up pretty well. And
I mean, the Ronaldo business it is kind of a whole of his own making. I think that's the concerning thing. There's a lot to recommend Roberto Martinez's work with Portugal, but the Ronaldo thing has overshadowed it all, especially as Fernando Santos gave him an out by leaving Ronaldo out for a really important game in the last World Cup, and it worked.
Can I ask very quickly, is there a cultural thing with Ronaldo whereby, I suppose the example you just gave there, that you can't, maybe there's a Portuguese sentiment that like, he's our problem. You can't complain. We can complain about him, but you can't complain about him.
Exactly. It's a little bit like I explained it on Ask OTC this week. It's a little bit like there's a sort of siege mentality around him, as if we know he's not the most important player anymore, but we can criticise him. You can't criticise. It's a bit like as I said, if someone like sort of. You can criticise your own brother, but no one else can criticise your brother, kind of thing.
Yes. All right. Well,
Andy's brother.
You can criticise my brother as much as you want.
Oh, dear me. Right, coming up in the second half, we've got that Spain-Germany game, and we'll look ahead to today's fixtures, including one involving England. See you in a minute.
OK, just a final question then, and I suspect you'll say this isn't within your job remit either, but should Bukayo Saka be nailed on in Gareth Southgate's starting 11 at the World Cup?
Oh, I would hope so. It's not within my remit, but if it was within my remit, absolutely yes.
Who are you playing with him up front then?
For England, I don't know who we'd put up front with him. Well, I mean...
Kane? Is an obvious kind of starting point.
Well, I'm just thinking, Kane and Saka, I mean, they do, just trying to think of formulation, they're probably Kane and Saka does work best, yeah.
Welcome back to the Football Ramble, everybody. The new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Donaldson-esque, that.
Kia Farmers League.
Talking about England at the 2022 World Cup. Right then, Spain 2, Germany 1, AET. After Eki time. The hosts are out after former Newcastle United man Mikel Merino's 119th
Rafa knows
winner.
what he's doing. Rafa
knows best.
Give him the job.
You've all got to leave your house and let us keep partying. Leave the keys.
At least
make yourself scarce.
Careful. This was a match that everybody was looking forward to. Arguably the two best teams in the tournament, certainly in Spain.
It was like if England want to go deep in this tournament, Marcus, this was like Alien versus Predator. Whoever wins, we lose. Now, it kind of turned out to be not quite so worrying, I think. Both teams could be got at, but then...
You're already looking ahead to the final.
Already looking ahead to the final. It's fine. Someone has to around here.
Well, it was nice to see an Englishman involved in this, although not everyone would agree. Anthony Taylor was refereeing, of course.
There's been a lot of criticism of the British referees at the tournament, and I just think they've applied the rules fine.
Yeah,
and
they don't appreciate us,
I guess he set the stall out early by not sending someone off, so then it sort of felt that everything was on the cards.
That's a very Cristiano Ronaldo conversation for the end of the first half. Look, we can batter our refs, but you can't.
Well, this from Build. Our summer fairy tale has been shattered because of a prison guard from England.
Have you seen our prison guards?
I thought early on, where of course Toni Kroos clattered Pedri and he ended up going off.
Oh, yeah.
I reckon, you must, when you get towards the end of your career, have these moments of, oh yeah, I had loads of great times, but if I'd have done this, it would have been even better. At that moment there, where he doesn't get yellow carded, I bet he gets up and thinks, God, I should have played in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Should have played in the Premier League. Yeah,
Got away with this.
Well, I mean, it was a very bad start to the game for Spain. As you say, Pedri taken off, he's going to miss the rest of the tournament, which is a great shame. And we know that De La Fuente likes to start with those three in midfield, but Dani Olmo came on straight away, Vish. And did you feel it kind of changed much of Spain? I mean, it's so early on in the game, I suppose.
I have no doubt it changed Spain into a more effective system against Germany, because one of the things that was interesting was a lot of the talk in the build-up was about Germany being more physical against Spain and not allowing them space and kind of interrupting their directness, I suppose. And that middle seemed quite cluttered, basically, which is, I suppose, is how Pedri gets the injury, because it's just a mess of like limbs and bodies, and he obviously goes over Kroos, has to be taken off, and then Olmo comes on. And he's slightly more forward-thinking, and he's a natural space finder, and he's one of those players who generally operates in that awkward space between, the defence and midfield of an opponent, whereby the defenders are looking forward, being like, we should probably go to him, and the midfielders are looking over their shoulder. Yeah. And I suppose that his dexterity as a footballer really shone through in extra time as well, where he then moves out to the left. He obviously sets up the winner, but his goal comes from arriving late, giving Yamal that option at the edge of the box. And I mean, I messaged a mate about this yesterday when he came on. It was just unbelievable. He'd be a starter for anyone in the tournament.
I totally agree with that. And I guess the thing is, as well as Olmo being a slightly more forward-thinking player and I guess a more natural goal scorer than Pedri, the thing is, Pedri is so exceptionally skilled on a technical level that he doesn't need to find the space, because it's like, well, put three defenders in front of me and I'll find a way out of it. So it's very different. He made a massive difference, and of course the fact is that he knows about playing German opposition, because he's played in Leipzig for a while now as well, and he's scored so many goals like that.
He knows the country.
he does know the country. I agree. He made a massive difference. It's interesting to me because I felt that Spain were the better team for probably 70 minutes.
I agree with you.
And then after that, they just let Germany back in.
Yeah.
It's as if Germany had this last hurrah and they had no way of controlling or stopping that. In that sense, I felt that this was, maybe it's not all his fault, but I felt this was one of Rodri's less influential games.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Would you not maybe trust Spain to sit on a slender lead then? If they were to sit back, because they clearly sat back, and understandably so. It's not a criticism. It was a very English thing to do. Is
their defence good enough to sit back?
Yeah, I mean, Germany had chances.
Yeah, they did. Well, they had the better chances, really, didn't they, over the entirety of the game?
Jumping ahead, even after Marino scores, Germany still had a couple of opportunities.
A chance. If you think of that chance for Füllkrug right at the end, if he could have ordered his own chance by Deliveroo, or equivalent service, that's exactly the one he would have ordered.
Yeah.
He's like, stand it up for me, 7 yards out, clear header, I'll eat that all day. And he couldn't quite put it away.
Yeah, I should be slightly behind him, I understand, but I get the point you're making. And
he
also
should have had more minutes for Krug as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, and of course, there was even one just before that where it was edge of the box and it was well blocked. So yeah, I think maybe it was slightly reassuring if you're French watching this, you're thinking, okay, Spain aren't indestructible despite having conceded only 2 goals in the whole tournament.
I think that tells not all of the story.
Yeah, I don't necessarily buy that France would be reassured by watching that game, because I feel like...
Because they watched the France game.
They watched their own game,
because I feel like Spain showed a few different sides to themselves.
True. There was a battling side that we saw. There was a side who did enough to win.
There was a rugby tackling side as well.
There was
a couple of those.
Well, there's been a bit of a chat about Dani Carvajal. Will he miss the final? Well, the chat is apparently not. I don't think there are any... One...
Oh no, we can't have a final without Dani Carvajal. Who gives a shit?
But yeah.
Jesus Navas is going to play the semi. Glorious.
Carvajal is so important for them.
Yeah, he would
I
obviously
think
miss the semi. So if indeed they do go through, then apparently he's going to be okay for the final.
They have lost 3 massive players there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you might say Le Normand is like the most easily replaceable one, but missing Carvajal and Pedri going into the semi-final, that is the bit that should encourage France, as well as Pete was saying, the fact that Spain can obviously be got at.
Yeah, it's important for Spain to win, though, because, I mean, again, you don't really want to face a side who have not lost a penalty shootout since 1976. Although Spanish club sides are very good at taking penalties, but we didn't get that in the end, Peter. There was controversy, though, as we said, about Anthony Taylor, some of the decision making, that Marc Cucuret's handball wasn't given. Julian Nagelsmann said that he wasn't moaning necessarily, but he was just saying, let's have a bit more clarification about the handball law.
I think he knows it was broadly fine, personally.
Because it was in a natural position, was it?
He adjusted his outrage accordingly, I think. It was a murmur rather than real upset at it, I think.
Yeah, I think he did quite well, actually, to kind of say...
Cucuret's had a great tournament.
He has.
Yeah.
Surprisingly so, yeah.
I mean, it's a shame for Germany, because if you read a number of... articles about what's going on in Germany and so on, not too dissimilar to a number of European countries, that there is a bit of division, there's a bit of this, that and the other, and political and et cetera, whereas this tournament, they'd kind of forgotten about all that. It was the classic, everyone's just banded around the side and they were having a really, really good time.
I think they've done enough to for that to be something to build on. I think,
possibly.
It's what they needed.
Yeah, but you could just see the faces of like people. They understand they've been beaten by a very, very good side, and they clap their side off. They've given a good
and they could have won. I mean, it was a hair's breadth, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Kai Havertz lob.
Oh yeah, but there was that gutting feeling, as it is the case for any host nation to go out early, of, oh, come on! Like we want to keep on partying. We want the sax man to be playing the tunes before the game, and that's why people often say it is good when the hosts go deep in a tournament.
And if any host was ever going to go deep in the tournament, it would be Germany, presumably, compared to South Africa or something.
Sure. Oh, you've gone all the way back to South Africa.
I was trying to think of hosts I've enjoyed that have won
Qatar,
a game.
you could have had.
Could have had Qatar.
Yeah. So I mean, what's the mood in Germany right now, Andy? Even though you're right here with us, you seem to have your ear to the German grapevine.
Well, I think it's
Grapevine.
I think it's definitely improved. The whole tournament has improved the relationship between the national team and the general public. I think that's what it was about more than anything else. I think
it's an important tournament for them.
Getting to the quarterfinals is about par on where they are with the moment. I said at the start I didn't feel they were a potential winner, and I think they proved themselves to be a potential winner. Actually, the way they played, even though they weren't faultless, they are a team in development. But I think the fact that the way that they were coached, the way that they played, that made the public warm to them a little bit more. And bear in mind, they've been very unsuccessful for a number of years, and there's been that real disconnect, not just because of the unsuccessfulness, but because the public feel they can't really relate to them. So it's done a lot of positive work for them, I think.
I think they will bemoan that late equaliser they scored against the Swiss, because if they were on the other half of the draw, I think
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, up. Yeah, and actually,
but when we're talking about, I don't think you can.
Oh God, that would have been the game today, wouldn't it?
It would have been the game.
Oh
today.
my God! Even the parallel universes are scary.
Also, they definitely don't want to play the Swiss twice.
Yeah.
But I think when we're talking about keeping the mood up, I was in the stadium for that Füllkrug goal against Switzerland, and it was a massive, massive moment in terms of improving the mood and in terms of keeping that optimism. It wasn't euphoria, optimism going. It was really important.
Well, one of the things that I found interesting, just reading the, I suppose like how things had washed up this morning, was the general sentiment that it seemed among German fans was that when they mapped out their route at the start of this tournament, it ended here against Spain.
Really?
And that's kind of how it played out. Yeah, obviously that is how it played out.
Mapping a path through a tournament. Arrogant. We would never do that.
Yeah.
Find the shit side, stick to it.
Exactly.
That's the way you do it.
The thing is, the trains are so bad, you've always got to plan your route.
Yes, that's fair enough. Yeah.
It's the last time we've seen Toni Kroos play a professional football match.
It's huge.
And it's kind of sad that his last act on a football pitch was a overhit cross.
I know.
Oh no, that's horrible.
Yeah, because Because obviously when Germany score that equaliser, the momentum's there. And it was really impressive, actually, how Spain managed to turn that round. Because you'd think a side who'd been sitting in and the crowds up and so on. But Spain, as I say, very impressive and so on. But they, we got another half an hour of Kroos, and you think, surely they're going to go and do this. And then that man, Marina, scores a beautiful headed winner. The way he hang in the air as well. It was absolutely delightful.
Just the way, so much hang time, Andy. You're a basketballman.
Yes.
Do you think he learned that from watching Les Ferdinand videos?
Possibly.
Almost certainly, yeah.
Rafa probably sat him down.
Les Ferdinand or Vince Carter.
The way his legs moved was like it was.
No one could get near him.
But you know,
I'm creating my space.
Yeah, but you know, like when a cat. I suppose there's also that.
Yeah.
But you know, when a cat uses its tail to contort itself in midair, it felt like that. It was like if you put him underwater, he would have.
It's like a Super Mario double jump.
Yeah, I had him as a recently caught fish.
Yeah,
right, yeah.
Kind of flexing.
What I liked particularly, of course, a lot has been made of his celebration at the end, where he goes around the corner flag, because his dad 33 years ago scored for Osasuna against Stuttgart in that same stadium.
That's cool.
in a UEFA Cup game, which is
the
lovely.
Same commentator commentating about it as well,
amazing. But what I love particularly
it's
is
Frank Lampard-esque.
they celebrated. And then he went back and did it. He's like, I'm sure I've forgotten something.
Yeah.
And then he went back and did it. It was really
fair
nice.
enough.
The Lampards did that at Ellen Road, in case anyone's forgotten. Thinking, what on earth is he going on about? All right.
Right, fine. Yeah.
But a little word on Toni Kroos, though. Marvellous footballer. 16 seasons, 844 games, Peter.
He seemed to age from the eyes. Like, he didn't seem to age.
I know what you
his hair's
mean.
fine, but his eyes just seem...
He is 34.
Yeah.
He's a young man.
That's so annoying, isn't
Would you not like just go, come on?
Come on, you could be doing that.
Get yourself out to Saudi.
but what immense satisfaction to have won as much as he has.
Yeah.
To have, I suppose, inspired so many different people, fans and fellow players as well, and been like a conduit for excellent, and also have the clarity to be like, you know what, I'm 34, I'm fine.
He's not old enough to play vets football yet.
No, yes, exactly.
As soon as he turns 35, hello, Bob Gilden Bennett.
He's not old enough to listen to this show.
The opportunity to quit on your own terms.
Yeah.
How many people get that?
Yeah.
He'll be back. It's like wrestling. He'll be back.
I mean, saying
Turn up a Royal Rumble.
I know what you mean by saying on your own terms, but it was very much Spain who decided ultimately, Andy. Just as Joselu said pre-match. There we are. So, Spain, they march on definitely as favourites for this tournament. I mean, if they weren't already. And let's hope that they can just get something out of France, you know what I mean? Like, are you going to hit us back? But it'd be an interesting one. Today, of course, England versus Switzerland, Netherlands versus Turkey. Reports suggest England will go with a back three, with Ezri Konsa coming in for the suspended Mark Gay. Uncle Mark, as he's called among the England camp. You heard this?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Do you know why he's called Uncle Mark?
Uncle Mark, not a clue.
As it was put to him, he says, I think it's because I'm quite mature.
His father
That
is.
sounds like he's retconning that. Sounds like he's made up why they call him Uncle.
No, they've all
okay.
been calling it in the England diary room. There was Uncle Mark and stuff. His father is
He's a pastor, isn't he? Yeah.
That's right. Because he said, will he be there? Which is for the Slovakia game. They said, will he be there, will he be at the stadium? And he said, I don't know. Actually, I don't think so, because church comes first and he'll be speaking. So I'm sure he watched the game, but I don't know if he was out there. But anyway, he's not playing.
No.
Ezri Konsa will be, and the rumours are that he'll be in that back three alongside John Stones and Kyle Walker, with Kieran Trippier and Bukayo Saka as wing backs. Obviously, Saka will be on the left.
Interesting choice.
Although if Kieran Trippier is on the left and Saka's on the right, we're going, what? No!
When I heard that they were basically matching Switzerland for whatever they were going to be doing tactically, I did sort of go, all right, well, that's probably the right thing to do.
Yes.
But then you see what he's doing. You go.
Well, I think a lot of people would have probably wanted Alexander-Arnold to start. Kieran Trippier has played there for England, obviously in the last Euros final, setting up that Luke Shaw goal. And it is the more conservative option, which we would expect from Southgate.
Is there a risk of England just being even more conservative tactically? Moving the ball around, they're just kind of, because there's three at the back.
Possibly. I mean, I think a lot of the Swiss, if you look at the way Switzerland play, a lot of their attacks do come down their left side, which will be England's right side, which I think England would prefer. if we're honest, because that left side, I mean, Saka can play wing back. He has actually played wing back for England very sparingly. I'm not talking about in the last game.
Doing it though, does he?
Well,
he's very diligent with that kind of stuff.
He is,
I think it's important to remember that even when he's played, even say like when he's played in his now normal position or regular position at right wing, when he's had specific instructions from Arteta, say,
to switch.
He stuck to them. No, but even just like not necessarily like bombing forward and doing a lot of defensive work, he does, follow instructions well. I genuinely don't see that side as a problem. No. I would prefer Trent on the other side, though.
Yeah, I think that's the chat.
The Swiss are quite robust, aren't they, in the way that they play? They know their positions, and they
I mean, Yakin is saying, we will cause problems for the English. He's obviously
well done, mate. We know that. Everyone does.
But what do you think of Konza coming in on that left side of the three, Andy? I mean, he's not the best ball-playing centre-back. I mean,
rare merit-based pick. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, you can.
Because I thought, like, whenever he's been given the chance, he's looked as if he's ready for it. I think by the way he's played and the way he's behaved and the way he's carried himself, he's earned this opportunity. But I think you're right to underline Trippier, as we presume it will be, and Saka. They are the two most important players in this because, of course, it's been said in some areas, well, okay, this is the bit where Bellingham and Foden get freed up because they're dual number 10s behind Harry Kane. But, I said this elsewhere, I think if you look at Switzerland through the tournament, and we talked about that Germany game before, of course, that dual number 10 thing, that is Germany, isn't it? That's Musiala and Wirtz at the start of the tournament. Who's the team that handled that the best and got Wirtz bumped out of the team? Switzerland. I can't think of a game in the tournament where Musiala was less effective than the one against Switzerland. They dealt with that totally. So it doesn't feel to me like, okay, Bellingham and Foden will be completely off the leash. For me, it's the wide players who will make the difference. And if you're going to get at Switzerland, it will be through the wide areas. I would just want Harry Kane to just stay in the penalty box as much as possible.
The most impressive teams at this tournament have got a bit of width. Spain, for example, we're just way wider than Germany. That's probably why they sort of sneak past them, wasn't it? So.
Yeah, the width has been very important, as you say, and England have been lacking that, especially on that left-hand side, as we've seen. I'm glad that if indeed he does go for this formation, which everyone is expecting him to do, this is what we wanted to see. He had to do something different. If it went out there again 4-2-3-1, and it was just kind of like, and Declan Rice, who's he got playing there, and Konza was coming in at centre half. I think everyone would. I mean, look. We don't know, but this is usually these rumours are true, aren't they? They usually come to pass when you hear these things, and I think people would be worried. I mean, I think you're right to say about Konza. Right? I just said that he's not the best ball playing centre half England. Like Dunk would be better on the ball, but I think you're right. Konza is a better defender.
But if you've got Rice in front of you, I don't think it's a massive deal anyway.
And also the recovery pace of Konza will be important. I think Joe Gomez might consider himself sort of slightly unlucky because again, playing on that more sort of left side of defence, Gomez has got a bit more experience with Liverpool, but for some reason he's a bit lower down the pecking order. So I'm not worried about Konza. I think he'll go in there, and I think he's a very fine defender and a good backup. But yes, the wing backs are crucial, and we don't want to see England pin back in rather than 4 in a 5. If you see what I mean, you've got to be able to get out somehow. I would have fancied maybe Anthony Gordon, as I've said, but then who do you drop and so on. But Phil Foden will probably be on the right. He'll be the right number 10, if you see what I mean, and Bellingham will be on that left side. And this is a real chance for Foden because Foden has not looked himself for whatever reason. None of them have really. It's harsh to single out Foden perhaps. Foden himself said, we've not been doing what the manager has wanted us to do. So if Foden is playing in a position where he is much more comfortable, where he prefers it, yes, of course, the rest of the team have got to support him and give him some service and all that kind of stuff. But I think this is a chance for Foden to really show what he can do.
You say it's harsh. It's a compliment, really.
Yeah.
Because it's an expectation created by the fact that he's been the best player in the Premier League this season.
Yeah.
And I suppose the other thing about Foden's positioning and England's positions more broadly is that with the ball, it's essentially going to look like the previous formation, but with Saka on the left and Foden on the right.
Yeah.
So, the reason that this formation has worked well for England in the past is because you can tilt it one way or the other, and you generally tilt it towards the left. so that everyone kind of shifts across and up. I also think, I don't necessarily think it's going to solve the pressing issue, but in the way that it's tiered as well, you'll have a bit more presence in the middle and in the opponent's half as well. Certainly at the start of their half.
Well, England need that because otherwise Switzerland will just carve them open easily.
And we'll also have a situation where you've touched on it there with Foden and a few other players. They are playing their favoured positions broadly. The problem, I think, will be caused by Xhaka. And I'm really intrigued by the matchup of him and Rice, because it's going to be Rice who has to shut him down. And the best thing about Xhaka over the last few seasons, as we've talked about on previous Euro shows, and what he's done for Switzerland here, is his energy is still so high that he goes and affects things across the pitch. And on the one hand, you want to say you don't want England to get dragged about by him. On the other, you think, well, actually, maybe one person should be following him at all times, because he's the one who makes them tick. Which
wouldn't surprise me if we see Gallagher at some point. Again, the rumours are that Mainu will start next to Rice, and I think that would show a little bit more attacking intent, because Mainu was really good. He was good. He was one of England's better players, I would say, in this tournament in general. And we know he's progressive, but in terms of that energy, in terms of the tackling, in terms of all that good stuff that Gallagher brings, I think he may well be quite a handy option at some point, even though some people say, it's a bit negative or whatever. Well, the team that starts is not going to be the team that finishes. So we'll see how England get on, depending on what they need and where they find themselves as the game progresses. But it's good that Jude Bellingham is free to play, though, even though when you read that article or the articles about it, UEFA gave him a suspended one-match ban. You're like, right, suspended. Okay, that's all right. He's in there. He's in there.
The news article I initially read on it said he'd been fined like 30,000 or whatever he was, and given a one-match ban. Next sentence, that ban will be suspended.
But the thing is, I don't trust him enough at this point in his career not to do it. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
In the next game to do it again or something, because the way that he celebrated goals.
He's definitely someone at this point who doesn't think about his actions; he does his actions.
Yeah,
I think England have got to be a little bit careful how they manage.
Thank
Bellingham.
God he did with that bicycle kick. To be fair, if he thought about it, he would have taken it down.
That's right. Well, Southgate said, we're helping him because he's a very young man and all this attention he's getting. Yeah. But at the same time, every time an England player is asked about Bellingham, they always say, "No, well, just Jude doing Jude things."
Right.
And there does seem to be this sort of talking up a lot about him, which is totally justified and understandable, and we've been doing it as well. But you've just got to be a little bit careful. Because Bellingham does this thing that we know Michael Jordan did in the Last Dance documentary, that he seems to think that there's people against him or the world's against him, which I think to myself,
like, create an opponent.
Exactly, and he's doing that a bit with the media, whereas I think the media have been all right with him, actually. And a lot of the media haven't criticised them as individuals, really. They've said the team performances have been poor, which they have, and by their own admissions, that has been.
But that's
the temperament, you've just got to make sure you get that right. And I understand when we're talking about this end of football and this pressure, it's incredibly difficult, and a little thing can suddenly snap and so on.
But that's part of the Jordan thing, though, isn't it? It's you're criticising the team, I'm integral to the team, you're criticising me.
Yeah.
It's obviously it's a leap from Bellingham's part, but it's not that much of a leap as like it has to be direct criticism at him. Mm-hmm. But the other thing I think about with Bellingham is, obviously he's going to go on to be a far better player than he is right now. These last few weeks have made me think, I hope he never comes to the Premier League.
I know what you mean.
Why is that?
It just, I don't think you need it. I don't think you need the kind of week to week kind of introspection on your character based on your on-field performances.
And he's not going to go to Man United.
Well, leave it. If he wants something to say, if he wants a haven, haven with a whole
haven from winning trophies.
Hide behind the waterfall.
Yes, yeah. Hide from pressure, mate. Don't worry about it. All the shit will fall on the bald man. Leave him be. But do you know what I mean? I think we've seen like a bit of this, and I don't think there's a lot to be said of. He turns 21 in this tournament, doesn't he? He's already turned 21. Yeah, sorry. I think while there is like a lot of understandable and reasonable criticism of how he's gone about things, I think he's 21. Like he'll grow in the way that everyone else grows.
You're right though. Sort of seeing him like playing basically the press being out for him. This is pre-Raheem Sterling, isn't it? Really, he's not bought his big house yet for his mum. Sort of vibe kind of. I think there'll be a reckoning with the British press, and they'll just do whatever they do to young black players, and just. I'm not sure.
But I think that's changed a lot because people, when I say like almost members of the public and footballers, have just policed it a lot better since Raheem Sterling.
I think Bellingham polices it well himself because he's someone. He's
quite aware,
he won't allow it. He'll march into the editor's office and go, "You can change that." Get out of it.
He's someone who's hugely intelligent, and he manipulates the media in his own way, but just by being charming, really.
But what you're saying there, Peter, I mean, we saw a little bit of unnecessary stuff with Saka just before the tournament.
Yeah, the black ice.
You've always got to be careful of this. But I mean, at the end of the day, currently right now, England are playing Switzerland this afternoon.
Get your hat on, Marcus.
And the reason why they're playing it is because Jude Bellingham scored a 95th minute overhead kick.
Exactly.
So get on it, everybody.
Exactly.
All right, get on it, because
try and do that from the penalty spot, France. Dickheads.
Come on, Judy boy, you've got another 3 of them in you, and we're going to need it for crying out loud. Get him off the lid. And if England win, get on the kebabs, just like the Turkey national team. Yeah. Do you hear about that story? My goodness. Apparently, when they went through, they ordered 300 kebabs from a local restaurant.
That's too many. Who's turning that out? That's the whole elephant's leg.
That's a delivery order gone wrong, isn't it?
I'll tell you what. Apparently, according to the article,
been eating lamb for weeks.
Mystery Star ate 3 of them himself.
Legend.
Just as well. Please. How many have they got in the camp?
Only 3 of 300. You've got to pull your weight.
Yeah. Come on. It's 1%, Andy.
I like the way this story is framed as well, because it was like, they ordered it and they were playing Austria as well. It was ahead of their first knockout game. And it was framed almost like
the night before.
Yeah. Like the coach has walked in and it's like, we've still got 50 kilograms of this stuff. Come on. Eat up.
The man called me boss man. I had to order 300. I felt like a big guy.
Yeah, no, he said chili sauce. I couldn't say no.
It's a far cry from all the McDonald's that the England team were bought under Sven in I think it was the 2002 World Cup.
Oh, when they sort of hid over... Didn't they jump over a fence to go and get it?
No, I think you might be talking about David Bentley's mate when he was on England duty.
Okie dokie. David Bentley's mate. Heavy that wears the freaking crown, isn't it?
Apparently, Jimmy Bullard said he was starving on England duty because he went to David Bentley's room and he was like, what can you do? And he was like, oh, don't worry, he made a call and some bloke turned up with some McDonald's.
Good.
Pushing it through the bars of Fabio Capello's prison. Or whichever era it was. I think it was under Capello. Anyway, it's time to go. I've mentioned Fabio Capello's England.
Thank you for watching a clip from the Football Ramble podcast. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an upload. A single upload. Don't miss out on the uploads. The uploads are important.